What's up, y'all? Welcome to 2nd and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast presented by Old City Sports Network, the best network for all your Philadelphia sports needs. It's your host, Michael Roscoe. The Birds drop a stunner at the last minute, losing to the Atlanta Falcons 22-21. We'll talk about what went wrong, plus what we need to do to bounce back going into a tough Week 3 matchup, and more. This episode, the entire 2nd and 15 podcast, and Old City Sports Network are sponsored by Righteous Felon Craft Jerky. Use promo code OCSN for 15% off your order at righteousfelon.com. We are also brought to you by SeatGeek. Use promo code Old City Sports Network, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. 2nd and 15 and Old City Sports Network are also brought to you by Decals by Aaron and Warlord Beard Oil. Head on over to warlordbeardoil.com and use promo code OLDSPORTS with an E at the end of old for 15% off your beard oils, washes, soaps, lotions, apparel, and so much more. All right, let's dive into the important stuff. This Eagles news and discussions, starting with the game overview. I'll be honest with y'all. This game went a lot closer than it needed to be, and it looked like we were going to run away with it. Instead of running, though, in the final 2 minutes on a 3rd and 3, Eagles coaching staff calls a rolling pass from Jalen Hurts to Saquon Barkley, which fails miserably as he cannot secure the catch. It stops the clock, and the Eagles are forced into a field goal to make the score 21-15. However, our defense has more holes than Camp Green Lake, as they allow the Falcons to drive down the field, and a pass from quarterback Kirk Cousins to wide receiver Drake London puts the Falcons up with nearly 30 seconds left. In a situation where we needed only about 10 to 15 yards for a field goal, we could have had it. But once again, we decide to put the ball in the air, and Jalen is once again in a position to play hero ball, which ends miserably as Hurts' pass is intercepted by safety Jesse Bates, securing the Falcons' first win and the Eagles' first loss of the season with that final score of 22-21. Jalen Hurts would go 23 for 30 for 183 yards in the air, 1 touchdown and 1 interception, while rushing for 85 yards and a touchdown. Running back Saquon Barkley would finish the game with 22 carries for 95 yards and 4 receptions for 21 yards. Wide receiver Devontae Smith, the wide receiver number 1 for the injured A.J. Brown, would finish the game with 7 receptions for 76 yards and a touchdown, while kicker Jake Elliott would go 2 for 2 on field goals. All right, let's look into some discussions, overreactions, and thoughts for this week 2. But before I get into all of this, I just want to give a disclaimer. I understand it's only week 2. I understand the Falcons have a much better offense this year than they did last year. I understand that this game was one not to be dominated in by either side, and that it was going to be relatively close. For some reason, I don't know what it is, a lot of our games against the Falcons are close. So a lot of these things are going to be emotionally fueled overreactions. There's some reality into what I'll say, but a lot of this is overreactions from what we saw. I'm just as pissed as a lot of you Eagles fans are, and, we just got to get it out of our system, get the frustration out somehow, and this is how I'm going to do it. So starting off with our offense with Jalen Hurts. Other than the pick at the end of the game, realistically, he actually had a great game. He had a 77% pass completion rate, rushed for almost 100 yards, including a score, and made much better decisions this week, playing less hero ball than he had to in week 1. Yes, the interception was bad. I'm just as tired of interceptions as y'all are. But let's put something into perspective. Jalen Hurts had fewer interceptions this week than Anthony Richardson, Tua Tagovailoa, Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff, and Dak Prescott. Am I bothered by the consistency of turnovers from Jalen Hurts? Yes, I think we all are. Am I bothered by this particular interception? Not entirely. Because Jalen shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. If things went how they should have gone, from a logical standpoint, he wouldn't have thrown that interception because the need to have that play would not have been there. Say what you will about the Eagles as a whole, but we saw a small, keyword small, emergence of 2022 Jalen Hurts we've been wanting to see. I had a feeling he'd be more comfortable running the ball this week, especially since the field wasn't absolute trash, and it showed. He gave it his all on each run, lowering the shoulder, making hard cuts, and fighting for first downs each and every time. From an overall standpoint, I was much more proud of Jalen in week 2 than I was in week 1, and if any percentage of blame for the loss is to be given to him for this game, I'd say it'd be like 1%. Hopefully the trend of improvement continues throughout the season because we are gonna need it. Now, for the offense as a whole, too many mistakes, at least 3 ineligible man downfield penalties, 9 total penalties, the drop in the end zone by Devontae Smith, the drop by Saquon Barkley that would have iced the game, and the deep ball throw play call on second down when we had 2 timeouts in the last 30 seconds of that game that ended with another interception. Too many mistakes, and poor play calling was this offense's downfall. There was all this talk about Jahan Dotson, since A.J. Brown was out, being a threat in this game. 1 target, 1 reception for 6 yards. Are you kidding me? You had Britton Covey on a lot of these checkdowns, which necessarily wasn't bad, but you brought in Dotson as the wide receiver 3 for a reason, and you didn't even utilize him. That was dumb. Another problem with the offense this week was riddled with poor game management, especially in play calling and decision making. A 4th and 4 in the red zone in the first quarter, and you don't take the points? For any other team, sure. I could see that being a thing where you go for it. Or if it was a 4th and 1, with the rate of success at 87% with the brotherly shove since 2022, then I wouldn't be mad if you went for it. But with how much our offense has shifted over the last year, and with our performance in week 1, you take the fucking points when they literally fall into your lap. I bet this was Nick Sirianni's call. I would not be surprised at all. I don't care what he has to say at this point. Nick, you take the fucking points. As an offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore cannot let Nick Sirianni influence decisions anymore. Nick relinquished his play calling for a reason, and we all know that reason. But anyway, if we took the points, we would have had a higher threshold of said points and realistically would have sealed the game. On the 3rd and 3 in the red zone, once again, under 2 minutes to play and on a 3rd and 3. Why not run the ball? But honestly, with this one, this was more of a poor execution than it was a bad play call. I didn't necessarily love the play call, but in hindsight, I didn't hate it either. I think it was a relatively smart decision in one way or another. If you looked closely at the play, you could see the Atlanta defense preparing for the run. So our offense goes for the hard count to try and throw off the defense, get that automatic first down, and put the game away because they would have committed a penalty. The thing is, though, Matthew Judon of the Falcons jumped and committed a neutral zone infraction. However, our offense didn't react to it to get the penalty. You see Dallas Goedert signaling it, but he's in motion, so he can't do shit about it. You see the player jump, and as an offensive lineman, you react to that. That penalty is getting called on the defense damn near every time. Then, when that didn't work, a play had to be run. I totally understand that. Now, the quick rollout pass to Saquon, it worked previously in the game. It was there, and Saquon catches that 99% of the time. However, that fucking 1% occurred and Saquon dropped the ball, literally and metaphorically. To go from a hell of a week 1 debut to dropping the game sealing catch and not getting a single touchdown, that's a bad look. Hopefully, that's the one significantly bad play Saquon has all year. I can't say mad at Saquon because he did come in clutch for us in week 1 and will continue to do so throughout the season. But that mistake, that's on you, bro. You gotta catch that ball. Now, shifting over to the defense. This fucking defense. I don't even know what to say about this defense anymore. No matter who's calling the plays, nor the amount of talent we have on the field, it's the same bullshit we saw in 2023. Let's start with that defensive line. Milton Williams was the only one who did a damn thing, so props to you, respectfully. But this line and the edge team has got to make improvements. 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits, and 3 tackles for loss ain't gonna cut it. Bryce Huff, it makes sense why he's wearing number 0 now, because it's fitting. In 2 weeks, Bryce Huff has 0 pressures, 0 quarterback hits, 0 tackles for loss, and 0 sacks. We're paying him $17 million a year for what? To do absolutely fucking nothing? That's ridiculous. Overall, there is 0 evidence of pass rushing. $50 million worth of players on that line and they can't do anything? What the hell is going on? You can't win on defense if the QB has all the fucking time in the world to get the playoff. For the linebackers, I don't have really anything to complain about. Zach Bond doing his job once again with 9 total tackles on the night, and Nakobe Dean with 7 total tackles. Didn't really see anything bad from their end. This secondary, though. My God, where the hell is the tackling and the coverage? Reed Blankenship is the only one doing a damn thing in the secondary, and that is saying a lot when you have guys like Darius Slay and CJ Gardner-Johnson, proven pro players in that backfield. Also, if CJ misses a tackle that leads to a touchdown one more motherfucking time, I'm going to lose my mind. Jaden Reed in week 1 and Darnell Mooney, out of all players, in week 2. Poorly executed tackling leading to a score back-to-back weeks. You're supposed to be the last line of defense, but where is that defense? That question, though, I honestly should be asking Vic Fangio that. We're in 2024, not 1984. That old school 2 high safety soft ass defense is not going to work, and it hasn't been working. There is no reason we need our safeties 15 to 20 yards off the line of scrimmage, especially when we're playing a team whose run game is their best offensive attribute with a running back like Bijan Robinson. And with the passing, oh my God, there's the middle of the field wide open yet again. I'm tired of asking myself, why can't we cover the middle of the field to save our lives? It's because of this soft-ass defensive play calling, leaving the middle of the field wide open for a receiver to run an inside route and make the catch. Hell, we saw it on 4th and 4, an inside slant from Kirk Cousins to Ray McCloud to convert for a first down. When are we going to learn from our mistakes? It doesn't seem like we will at this point. In addition to this 2 deep safety defense, there was 0 blitzing, at all. Why are we not blitzing? We saw how much Kirk collapsed in the pocket during the blitz in week 1, and we didn't think to do that for ourselves? I know we don't have a guy like TJ Watt on our defensive line, but it doesn't hurt to at least try to blitz. This defense is soft as hell, and I don't know if we're going to change that at all. The safeties were too deep, the middle of the field continued to be exposed, complete absence of the blitz or pass rush. It was probably the worst Eagles defense I have ever seen in my 30 years of life. If I could give this defense a grade lower than an F minus, I would. Something has to change. As Eagles fans, we cannot take it anymore. We just can't. We cannot be this loaded of talent for us to be playing this level of shittiness on defense for another season. We just can't do it anymore. Okay, before I get into the preview for next week, I just want to talk about Nick Sirianni real quick. Apparently, according to at least two players, those being Reed Blankenship and Jordan Mailata, it's been reported that Nick Sirianni did not address the team after the loss. According to Sirianni, when asked about this, he said that Jalen's post-game speech captured everything that needed to be said regarding the loss. But I don't think that's good enough. As a head coach, that's literally your job to address your team after the game, win or loss. That's just another piece of evidence of poor coaching from Sirianni. How the hell do you not address your team, especially after that collapse of a loss? This is turning into a player-led organization, which isn't necessarily a bad thing when it comes to like taking accountability for actions, supporting each other as teammates, stuff like that. But from a leadership, an organizational, and an action implementation standpoint, the coach needs to step the fuck up. Nick's been on thin ice basically since 2023. To go from 10-1 to 2-7 from last year to this week in 2024 is something crazy. And then in this game, you let prime chances to put points on the board go to waste, eventually putting us in a losing situation. And then to top it all off, you don't talk to your team afterwards? What is going on through this man's head? I don't even know if I can defend this man anymore. I tried my best last season to come to his defense, but now, at least in this very moment, I don't know if I can anymore. All right, now we're going to dive into the last half of the show, the Week 3 preview. Looking into Week 3, the Eagles head down to the Bayou to face a red-hot New Orleans Saints team who in 2 games have collectively put up 91 points. That being against the Carolina Panthers, which doesn't say too much in my opinion, and the Dallas Cowboys, which says a lot more. I'll be frank with y'all. My confidence going into this game is almost near non-existent. This is probably the first time in this podcast history where I'm predicting a bad loss for the Eagles. Call me a hater, call me faithless in the team, whatever. For this particular week, unless we see something drastic between now and Sunday, I just don't see us coming out with a win. I'm predicting we lose along the lines of 35-20. However, I will go into what I believe we need to do if we have the slightest chance of bouncing back with a win. First things first, I know this is not realistic, but get Nick Sirianni off the field. At this point, I am done with him. I would not be surprised if he were let go if we were to fall to 1-3 over the next couple of weeks. I don't think we'll be 1-3, but whatever, that's a different story. Sirianni has the wins under his belt as a coach, but they certainly are not coming from his input. I've defended him a lot in the past, but now his arrogance and ignorance are costing us big time. Poor decision-making, poor game management, poor locker room etiquette in week 2, it was blatant. He cannot be a part of this Eagles organization if he continues to fuck this team over. Now, realistically, I know he can't be off the field. He's the head coach. I'm not dumb. But if I were Kellen Moore, I'd tell Nick to STFU if he tries to have any input in this upcoming game. Next, play more aggressive up-front defense. We're going against another team that had an explosive run game in Alvin Kamara, who put up 3 rushing touchdowns and 1 receiving touchdown against a Dallas defense. This deep safety shit is not going to cut it. We need to blitz, our pass rush has to actually exist in this game, and our safeties need to play up. Hell, bring a safety blitz with Reed Blankenship because you know Milk ain't afraid to make the tackle. The only consideration I would have in keeping that too high safety is that if you look at Derek Carr from last week, he was throwing bombs down the field. Granted, it was only 16 pass attempts, but it was an average of 15.2 yards per completion with like an 87% success rate. That is nuts. The Saints may take advantage of our secondary and up their passing numbers since our defense couldn't cover a bar tab, but at the same time, their run game has been working for them, so they may think, shit, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Either way, our defense needs to be able to make in-game adjustments, something I feel like we didn't see in the Atlanta game. If we can make these in-game adjustments, it could throw off their offense and we may have a chance. Next thing, our receivers need to get open. I don't know why this was so hard. I could count at least on one hand the amount of times Jalen had to scramble or throw it away because the receiver was not open. Granted, we didn't have A.J. Brown, who can always get open. It's literally his Instagram handle. But still, our receivers need to be able to separate themselves enough to give Jalen a chance to give them the ball. Why are they making his job harder than it needs to be? Figure out how to make quick separation from the DBs and get open. I don't care if it's a screen pass. I don't care if it's an inside slant. I don't care if it's a go ball. Just get open. God. Next thing, Jalen's running decision needs to be a little quicker. If he has a hard time reading defenses, so be it at this point. We've talked a lot about how Jalen can't read a defense. It's looking more like that case each game. We know what he can do with his legs, though. He put up almost 100 rushing yards, including a touchdown. If you can't find an open receiver, just run. If you can't find it within 2-3 seconds, just run. You'll get us down the field, you'll manage to run the clock out, and it'll reduce your likelihood of making a dumbass mistake. Next, and probably one of the most important things that I think we need to do if we have any chance of winning this game. At the 2-minute mark and under, do not, and I repeat, do not force any risky plays. Don't be predictable, but play smart. With the loss to the Falcons, that marked the fourth game in which the Eagles blew a lead and lost within the final 2 minutes since 2023. Jalen struggles in the final 2 minutes. Hell, apparently the whole team struggles in the final 2 minutes. For the offense, they got to play conservatively. Use your assets, run the ball, check it down, have Jalen rush. Quick, simple plays that can chew the clock down. If we're behind, play with some urgency, but the deep pass has not worked. Whether it was in Seattle last year or Atlanta this year, a deep pass ended with an INT, so just don't try it. If we're on defense in this situation, play up front and aggressively. Like I mentioned earlier, this soft, deep coverage shit hasn't been working. Their offense would likely chew down the clock as well, unless they're losing. Either way, the defense needs to play much more aggressively, force the pocket to collapse, and make some damn tackles. I'm tired of seeing missed tackles. I hope that they took this week to do nothing. I hope they took a whole practice to do nothing but tackling, because we sure as shit can't do it on the field. Might as well take a whole practice to do it. Make the tackle. All right, I got some final thoughts before we end this week's show. This game is one that we should have won. We had plenty of opportunities, not just to put points on the board in general, but to ice the game, and we couldn't do it. Would things have been different if we had A.J. Brown on the field? Personally, I believe so. But we need to have game-winning plans whether one-star player is available or not. You simply cannot just execute the same plan when you're missing a huge contribution to that plan. We need to believe that our coaching staff can shift things around when things aren't working, and that players can step up when we are in these unfortunate situations involving injuries. And we didn't see that. We saw remnants of a 2023 season that Philly fans are desperately trying to forget. We don't want constant reminders of that. We want tangible change, and we want the flawless execution of that change. And again, I realize it's week 2. I realize we have 15 more games to go. But we have been the laughingstock of the NFL since 2023, and this loss only continues to emphasize that. There are so many haters of this team, Jalen Hurts, you name it. Many NFL fans pray for our downfall, love to see the Eagles lose, and genuinely love to see the Eagles fans miserable. Analysts continue to doubt our abilities, but we haven't given them any proof other than Saquon Barkley. I don't want us to continue to be the laughingstock of the NFL. I want this team to be feared. I want this team to make the hater analysts look dumb. I want this team to disprove the arguments about Jalen Hurts as a quarterback. I want this team to be elite. I love this team. I am passionate about this Philadelphia Eagles team. This is why I'm emotional and harsh when they screw up. We have high expectations. We want another Super Bowl, and we want to see this team go out and get it. I think if you pull off a win against the Saints and the Bucks back to back, the Eagles will get back into that Super Bowl conversation. Faith will be restored in this team. Hating analysts will look stupid, and we will have that momentum to carry us to that big game. But it all starts now and in that locker room. I pray that the Eagles review their mistakes. They call out their coaches. They make adjustments, and they come out into this next game with anger and with heart. All the pep speeches in the world can be given, but they simply exit the mind if the results don't match the passion. This loss sucks, and I feel like because the win was in our hands, only to lose it in a familiar fashion to last year's downfall makes it hit even harder. We've been the underdog many times before and have risen to the occasion to go all the way. And the time to do that again starts now. All right, y'all, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or follow on YouTube, X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok by searching at Second and 15. That's 2NDAND15, or by the full name Second and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast. You can also find the audio for each and every single episode releasing Thursday mornings on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Player FM, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see y'all next week. Hopefully, my lack of confidence is misguided and we pull off an incredible win down in New Orleans. Don't forget to stay fly like an eagle, and as always, go Birds!